#1 streaming radio app now.
iHeartRadio.
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 Free never sounded so good.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us, see the show, participate into it, whatever way works best for you is the right place for you to be as we continue our missions. The two major parts of it to be able to have live local talk radio here in the Borderland, because there's a lot going on that we need to talk about. And so the second part is to get into that, discuss the things going on and affecting us right here at home, because no one else is going to have that discussion like we do here in the Borderland, and the people who live, work, play, etc. in these places, and really anywhere in our listening area. And I do include that online, because I know we have some people that tune in from points far afield if you want to keep up on the news and the stuff going on around here. And there's a lot happening. Again, I've brought forth that mild conspiracy theory about how a lot of stuff happens right after we're on air, or particularly over the weekend, and it certainly bears out this time. Now, some of these were more expectable than others, including the culmination of for the Texas Attorney General, now reinstated, spoiler alert, in the capital impeachment trial process. And he's back on the job. We'll get into those details and what the many, many different facets of the acquittal comes along with, including, there'll be a lot of opinions on what this means, justification, vindication, miscarriage, what have you. But really the rift between the chambers is further spoiler alert, what we're going to be focusing on, because that back and forth, and one of the better lines, the fight for the soul of the party in the state. That one was arguably the most important thing, or the most significant thing on evidence and really on trial from the whole ding-dam process. But there's a lot of other things going on, including a little bit closer to home, looking at in the Borderland region, seeing rising numbers when it comes to those border security and immigration issues, including the numbers arriving at the border. What is being seen so far, the latest numbers that are out and available, but also do have some further indications from other parts of it. Yes, aware of other areas and the numbers and videos coming in from that. So we'll be breaking down that situation as well, but also plenty of things going on. Also, not just on the major, definitely not legal when it comes to the impeachment process, but other ones, including a lot of presence at a major roadway project being planned for the Mission Valley, specifically getting put on hold, among other things, and really what that reveals for the future of other such processes, because there's a lot of road work and potential, specifically home, business, property impacts overall that are going to be happening throughout the area. So what that whole process ends up revealing. So, like I said, a lot going on today, y'all. So if you want to chime in, like we do have Louis Pinato chiming in already with some expectation of other comments, I think the best way to describe it, do so over on the social media. Also dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate, including RJ and Robbie Flores. Do appreciate it, as we got another whole lot of stuff going on this week. So I appreciate y'all joining on and being along with us as we continue this ride. So let's jump straight into what exactly we are seeing here in the Borderland region when it comes to those, again, border security and immigration numbers. That's a couple of headlines going to read you out here real quick of about from our news partners at KFOX 14 as of this morning. There was just the headline here, group of about 500 migrants spotted near El Paso border, primarily from Venezuela. The continuing reporting on there was saying that Border Patrol said the group is on the south side of the border barrier near Fonseca Drive, and technically in the U.S. at that point, even on the other side of the border barrier. The border fence in that area is part of well, they are in the U.S. at that point in time. And primarily single adult males and family units from Venezuela is what the notice is. And so will be processed at a Border Patrol facility. And specifically, the numbers we are seeing in the region is that City of El Paso spokesperson saying the region seeing about 1,200 migrant border crossings per day. And similar to what other agencies are also seeing about 1,100 in the releases as well. So that was at least part of the concern, at least coming out over the weekend as we were talking about it on Friday, saying that there was, and this is borne out by some of the numbers from the El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis, showing that the hotel operations significantly up towards the end of last week, starting on the 12th, seeing going up to over 200 on the 13th. Well over 500 and on the 14th. So right before we got into the major times over the weekend, about 700 in hotels being put up there for the temporary accommodations. With the in-custody numbers from CBP, well over 5,000, technically down slightly, but right around 5,300, give or take. And the releases, specifically the total number being noted by, again, El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis, that migrant situational awareness dashboard, at about just shy of 7,500 for the whole week, averaging approximately, I actually don't have the number up there totally available, but yeah, that's the total migrant releases for that week. So that's, of course, just in our area. Though, of course, I'm aware of other reporting that's been happening from around the region, including noting about a couple thousand in the Eagle Pass area expected at one point in time. So there definitely is a lot of information that is still coming out and developing about this. I haven't seen anything specifically yet if there ended up being street releases. Not going to call it exactly a no news is good news type situation, but there's still a lot of it, including other reporting from our news partners at KFOX 14. Hundreds of migrants spotted on cargo train en route to Ciudad Juarez, kind of reminiscent of some of those, what was the phrase for it? Train to hell. I don't remember what it was called, but something along those lines. And at least one water rescue having to happen over the weekend was so specifically Sunland Park fire crews having to do that, and 3 people pulled out of the river in that one. So we're seeing increasing numbers. We are seeing this, another one of these inflection points, I guess, another way to put it. So the city of El Paso saying that they are providing overflow emergency support to local NGOs. So it's not totally clear. And specifically, 4,200 migrants provided shelter in hotels over the last 7 days. And they have set up an overflow facility at the nation's Tobin Recreation Center as a precaution currently. And they say they do not currently remain to, Ed Clark, correct me, the beast. There we go. It's similar types phrasings, but that's the one that referring to the train that had previously been in previous years, I think at this point being reported on, but sounding similar enough to that. So Border Patrol saying for their part that those that have become without documentation or authorization going through, say, the CBP One app or any of the other currently allowable methods will be processed for removal using a Title 8, which, among other things, is noted as being a part of a more laborious process and one that comes with significant encumbrances. Not simply a removal order anymore. It does come with a 5-year ban on any entry into the United States, legal or otherwise. So that's part of the many different facets of enforcement measures going on right in, around, and about our area, along with a lot of the other border sectors, as was said end of last week. CBP and again DHS agencies that are dealing with immigration and border security issues, maybe using some of the off epicenter processing areas. It looks like El Paso probably won't be one of the places that people are being transported to by federal authorities in order to do further processing, as we are seeing again the spike in our area specifically as well. So no word exactly yet if some of those other ones, including, say, the Moorhead facility or the potential of that being brought back online for this time around. But again, this situation still evolving as we're just getting into this week. So these are some of the numbers and situations. We're looking at that at the start of this week, but of course there's a whole lot more that we'll be keeping our eye on, and that will probably being continued to evolve over the coming days and potentially weeks. There was one question that came up here. Louis Pinato asking why was I-10 closed this morning at Thorn. Not sure about that one, but I do know that there was a crash in, well, I guess it was West El Paso. Yeah, you're right. I-10 east at Thorn around 11:49 p.m. speed being listed as being a factor by El Paso police in that specific one. So looking at some of the pictures and that pretty mangled wreckage right under, it looks like one of the support poles for the actual bridge was impacted there. Identity has been released by El Paso police of the man who died, 24-year-old Ruben Garfio of Chaparral. So that happening late last night, and noted as the 54th person killed on El Paso roadways this year. And yeah, noted by authorities as being having veered off a roadway and struck a large cement investigation, including if alcohol was a factor or not. But that's why that one was closed to Louis' question there. But a lot of other things going on in and around the borderland, including affecting roadways, not in this way, but more along the lines of future projects, of which there's been a lot of anticipation, if maybe a little bit of trepidation in our region. One of I guess you could call it a test case. No one's really referring to that besides me anyway, when it comes to a major Lower Valley project that would have really created more access, but also significant disruptions to existing houses and communities. So talk about that and what that may reveal about some future processes after this break. You are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more we'll be getting into throughout the rest of this day. And of course, y'all's phone calls a little bit later in the hour, as we usually do. So in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Mazer Security Alarms, providing safety, security, and peace of mind in the borderland for more than 40 years now. Their license, experience, and particularly very well credentialed installation techs ready to serve you by looking at what they can offer you, upgrading your current systems, or providing completely new solutions. There is no job too small or too large, and they've got price points to fit just about any budget, including $0 down options. So if you want to make sure that you've got whatever you need, things kept safe and secure, be at home, in the office, or anywhere in between, you can give them a call to get your free estimate at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Again, ask them about the News Radio 690 KTSM discount, Mazer Security Alarms.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Your Borderland freeways are accident-free right now. No wrecks, just some slowing. I-10 westbound from Red to Artcraft due to lane restrictions. It's a less than a 5-minute delay. Road construction, I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to Red is less than a 5-minute delay. And some heavy traffic southbound Mesa from Desert Boulevard to downtown. 5-minute delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Are you 55 or older, unemployed, and looking for work? The AARP Foundation Senior Community Service Employment Program serves unemployed low-income persons 55 and older by training them in part-time community service assignments and by assisting them in developing skills to transition to permanent employment. Participants are paid minimum wage and work 18 to 20 hours a week. Let us serve as a bridge to permanent employment for you. Call 855-850-2525 for more information.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-727-9105. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105.
Signs everywhere, signs for your business and signs for your ride. Sign Pros is the place where we make your signs.
Sign Bros is your source for vehicle wraps, window graphics, LED outdoor signs, and much more. 20 years in business locally. Call 855-8000, visit 1387 George Dieter, Suite C104, or go to signbrosep.com, where you don't pay for a sign pays for itself. Sign Bros.
Liberty Mutual presents How to Get Ahead at Work.
It's simple. Just ask for a meeting with your supervisor. While you're discussing the latest sales reports, just slip into the conversation that you customized your home insurance with Liberty Mutual and saved hundreds. Whoa! The business savvy you showed saving hundreds of dollars on home insurance will have you running seminars on saving money in no time.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com. Based on recent survey of new customers who switched and saved. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you all for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Kelvin Williams with the wave there as well, and others chiming in some more comments that we'll get to here in just a second. But of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. They've got a lot of different options and big savings on there, including continuing on with that fall kickoff event, as well as other major, like get employee pricing, thousands of dollars off for well-qualified buyers. Find them at 950 Crockett Street, Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. So, a lot of stuff going on here in the Borderland. We were mentioning about some roadways and such. And again, that update, in case y'all missed it, there was a fatality underneath Thorn late last night, and that apparently continuing on into this morning. I'm not saying that the El Paso, particularly the traffic investigation squad, takes a long time to do things. I think some of that is apparent, though I do. In previous conversations I've had with people about, okay, in the timeframes of other major U.S. cities and what it takes to deal with and gather all of the necessary evidence from a traffic incident or issue or fatality. I mean, very serious, don't get me wrong, but of the continuing impacts that come from that, it is borne comparison to other major metropolitan areas and how they deal with it. But in the meantime, a lot of other conversation about roadways in general in El Paso. It was kind of simmering this whole last week with some community organization events that I was aware of, but specifically referring to the reporting from El Paso Matters on this one. Socorro pumps brakes on planned road project amid resident objections. Always appreciate a good punny headline, I do have to say myself. But noting overall some of the efforts that have been news partners at KFOX 14 doing some significant reporting on this as well, leading up to pretty much the culmination over this past few days. On at least 100 people on Thursday nights, as noted by El Paso Matters, specifically into Socorro City Hall, over the concept of a new arterial road. Because, sure, anyone who's gone down to parts of the Mission Valley has probably encountered some of those, let's call it fun situations with the roadway, the accessibility, and just everything that comes along with it. And I mean, sure, some of the roadways down there are fine and have seen some expansion, but seeing some of those direct connections with I-10 was really the point of it. And but of course, when you expand roadways, particularly when you got, I mean, some of those, and these aren't the ones that were being considered, but you get down along Alameda, or it's even more specifically along, like, say, Socorro Road itself, there's a lot of very close, I mean, sometimes there's this one Adobe building I'm thinking about that is more or less the shoulder of the road, but it was there since before the roadway, at least it was in its current modern format, and a lot of houses having been developed as well. So again, referring to the El Paso Matters reporting there, as we also have Ida Beza Gardner with the Hello on the Wave. Thanks for chiming in and tuning in there as well. That looking at connecting Socorro Road to I-10, it's been an effort going on for the better part of a decade at this point, but looking at it, one of the major options that was being discussed was along Bauman Road, which is not one I'm going to say that I'm intimately familiar with, not my usual stomping grounds, I will be perfectly honest, but of the idea of particularly seeing quite a lot of expansion along that way. Again, a lot of residents concerned about it. So not saying that it's not a needed project, but, and if you don't live in that area, you may be thinking, okay, so what? Enough people showed up that it made them be concerned about the potential of it, and some of the things going on, including noted that Socorro Mayor Ave Avalos said that this was only the beginning stages, that the bids and the road project wouldn't actually begin until 2028, among other things. And we're pretty much looking at it, if you're wondering about the way this is. No, Socorro Road itself wouldn't be looking at be expanded, but some of the options were basically take Socorro Road and take a right angle towards I-10, so up the hill, more or less, I want to say northeast a little bit, the kind of general direction. And I mean, they're going to go through neighborhoods almost no matter what, because there are some more or less densely populated roadways out that way. But many of the questions would still put it, at least some of this road construction straight through someone's front yard. So it getting put on hold for now, at least until there is more consideration, or at least looking at about the differences and the other possibilities. I mean, this is by no means done, but the real reason I wanted to bring this one up is that some of the organizations or people organizing, better way to put it, around this issue have noted specifically the involvement and or the questions about TxDOT, because I mean, this was going to be a state road project. So of course the Texas Department of Transportation going to be directly involved with this. But we've had some conversations in recent-ish years, not as much most recently because we've had a lot of other roadway projects, but every time it comes up, I often end up mentioning the fact that the current expansion happening on I-10 itself, the lane expansion, road resurfacing, all those projects that have been going on, but the lane expansion happening right near the state line with New Mexico right now is one of the more significant examples. It's all prelude. I mean, we're getting more and more closer to the main event, but pretty much most major road projects in the region have been towards that idea, towards the point of, well, the redoing of I-10 itself. Now, this part makes the most sense, the one going on up again near the New Mexico state line towards, Anthony and those areas, those reaches of the county, because it's going to then match up and do that, get rid of that weird down to 2 lanes and then back up to 3 lanes section of I-10 that we got in that part. Anyone who transits to or from Las Cruces or just towards the state line, we get Anthony communities, Vinton, etc., has been experiencing that for years now, as then it does at Mesa on the west side. That exit, it goes back down to 2 lanes and then up to 3 lanes once you hit the state line. Just weird, and partially because New Mexico did its road work on that northern part of it. Oh gosh, I don't remember that exact date. Better part of, if not more than a decade ago at this point. So matching that up makes sense, but the rest of pretty much any other work we're talking about along I-10 is going to come with significant other issues, including, though probably, if for my money, don't have it exactly like a survey I can point to on this, but it's the one that comes up the most, is the concept of what is going to be built or needing to be removed, more specifically along I-10 through downtown. That's where we get some of those projects that we've talked about previously, like the downtown deck or other similar types of projects, considerations, etc. I do think we have at least one of the pictures of that from our archive here. Yep. And so the downtown deck is by no means the most significant part even of the whole enterprise being considered. It's just kind of, I don't know, emblematic of the whole thing. Yeah, we do have some of the previous pictures, and that would be coming, the whole downtown deck. Again, not pinning this on the downtown deck as the problem, but rather a further part of the issue of if they have to expand I-10 or specifically that downtown trench. Of course, it goes underneath what are, if you ever drive through downtown and that part of it, the currently labeled streets, those would, down to either parts of it, probably more to the north side of downtown, because I would be real surprised if there was going to be any considered viability of demolishing, like, say, those new downtown skyscrapers and hotels that have been built up in recent years. Yeah, I don't feel like that's too controversial of a call to make. Like, yeah, your Doubletree and the heck is that 601 North Oregon, doesn't it have a pithier name than that, but the newer downtown skyscraper that exists. So we're looking at pretty much everything south of Yandle being the part that would be, well, I guess, yeah, south of Yandle and in between I-10, more specifically, as being potentially up for being on the chopping block. And so that's why this project, I mean, it's a smaller impact, I mean, among other things, as again noted by El Paso Matters, the actual traffic along some of those roadways is in city of about 39,000 people. So definitely a lot less traffic to Socorro than it is through the main downtown parts of I-10. But still, the organization around it. We've had previously in previous years on guests from, say, like the Sunset Heights Association, some other political concerns in town, as well as TxDOT itself, to talk about the need for us. There was some of those public meetings that were going on, including the downtown deck itself, don't get me wrong, but again, that would all of that potential work, and as a, again, separate project from the I-10 work itself, not involved with TxDOT essentially until, well, we get to the aftermath. All of that would be facing possibly its own, well, we've heard about articulated opposition to that more specifically. And so if this is kind of a case in point or prelude, I mean, this was of that city of, again, the community of 39,000 people, about 100 or so showing up to this meeting. Now, would I necessarily expect that once we start actually talking about, okay, this is what's going to be demolished, rather than like, well, it's a possibility, it's an idea. No idea if we'd have a proportional amount, because you get into the city of El Paso where you wouldn't be talking about thousands of people starting up the meetings. I would not expect, but maybe thousands of people being interested or being concerned and wondering how this is going to happen, but also wondering if it's going to take that much longer till we get that much closer to the process actually happening. So what's past is prelude, as is almost always the case, but this one about major projects and impacting the communities they surround. Interesting example, and wanted to bring that up in that way. As we also have a Calvin Williams saying, start many projects, then you are guaranteed to get the money you need to finish them. Never finish what you start until you know you have more later. Maybe somewhat of a cynical view on it. I mean, maybe from the contractor point of view, if you're going to be just super cynical and just cutthroat capitalist about it. But with the city projects, I mean, we got plenty of other ones going on as well, including roadway resurfacing. So there actually hasn't been that much of a lack of roadway projects in the at least last, how long have we been doing this? Okay, better part of a decade there as well, because I mean, that's since before that point is when they were doing all that roadway construction, the adding of some of those flying overpasses and access roads. Technically, when we're talking about, say, from our station here off of Executive Center Boulevard, that executive exit heading northbound on I-10, or technically westbound, was closed for like 3 years, give or take. Felt like a lot longer, but for all that roadway construction. And if anything, it has been noted that there has been a lack of people able to do these jobs because of the high demand we've been seeing in this region. I mean, just think about it in the last few years, from the major projects we've had going on, the complete revamp they did of the entire I-10 and Border Highway West kind of Paisano-Doniphan intersection, those whole interchanges, all the parts of that, which again was prelude to then redoing I-10. So this has been in the works for more than a decade at this point. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to get something else figured out, but if there was an affordable flying car option that wouldn't lead to people crashing into people's backyards all the time that could come out real soon, that'd be great. Any case, let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, more comments on the line, and also talking about, the blockbuster ending to the events happening in the Texas Capitol over the end of last week and then into the weekend. We got some local response coming into that as well, including those that were involved in the case. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Hammer and nails, absolutely, in my opinion, one of the better options and newest ones available when it comes to complete men's grooming here in the Borderland region. Specifically, I get their most recently their premium cut and premium beard grooming, because of course, looking and feeling good is important for just about anyone, particularly if you're putting your mug on the internet like I do. But also, if you just want to make sure that you're getting the best quality that you can in town, Hammer and Nails is where I have gone to. They're, of course, the official hair and beard sponsor of the show for that reason. They've also got their memberships that we are doing. Going to be having more of those giveaways coming up here for too long, so keep an eye out for that, because you can make sure that you get your services one monthly price. Keep it looking good and looking clean, particularly if you sign up for their new Club Lux, their premier club, where unlimited services for that one monthly price, and even bring along a friend and get those premium, super premium services like the Lux 24 hand and foot care and 24K cut experience. Find them, of course, over there at the fountains at Farrell, lower level, 8889 Gateway Boulevard West, Suite 1760, or just find them online. Make your appointment. Takes just a couple of minutes, and you'll be all set to go at hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammerandnailsgrooming.com, and I'll see you there.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Vanya Castillo with your CBS 4 headlines. The El Paso Police Department is asking for the public's help in identifying a naked man who broke into an office in central El Paso. On Thursday, August 17th, a nude man broke into the Child Advocacy Center for the Children of El Paso. The center is located on 100 East Cliff Drive. Now, this is a neighborhood by Cathedral High School. The nude burglar, who police describe as white or Hispanic, was captured on security footage. The video shows him entering the Advocacy Center at 10:42 p.m. He was seen stealing a laptop before running from the scene. Police say he then had a thin build and a short buzz cut. Crime Stoppers also says he was wearing glasses, headphones on his head, and wore dark-colored socks and athletic shoes. The burglar is also described as having visible tattoos on both arms, hands, and chest. Investigators are certain someone has vital information on the identity of this nude burglar. Crime Stoppers is offering a cash reward for anyone who has any information that leads to an arrest. If you or anyone you know has information, you can call the anonymous tip line by calling 915-566-8477. For more local headlines, you can check out our website at cbs4local.com.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Seeing some on and off slowing on the 54 south from Stan Roberts down to McCombs, 15-minute delays. I-10 eastbound slow, 5-minute delays from Vinton to Artcraft. Westbound on the I-10, roadwork continues. Red up to Artcraft is a 5-minute delay. And slow traffic eastbound Montana from Hawkins out to Zaragoza, 7-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is forecaster Nasai Mancini. Well, folks, we're in for a pretty nice day here in the Borderland. Highs we saw in the low 90s today. Lows tonight are going to be in those 60s. As we make our way throughout the rest of the week and see a little bit of those breezy conditions come Tuesday, and then a 10% chance for some moisture to be drawn in Thursday, Friday, but staying in those 90s. Head on over to kfoxtv.com for the latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right, everything you earned doubled. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all doubled. Seriously, though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Don't get hit hard by high prices or low trade offers. Score a touchdown and save thousands on new and certified pre-owned vehicles and get more for your trade.
Trade in and trade up for less during Jeep Adventure Days at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get $6,500 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lowstar, Bighorn, and Laramie trucks, or 2.9% APR for 72 months. 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks, 10% off MSRP. Take $3,500 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Charger. Get $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Chrysler 300 and 2023 Dodge Challenger. Worried about your credit or worried that you're upside down in your trade? Forget about it. Our aggressive lenders will push to improve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. $1,550 per thousand finance includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTL on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with Mazer Security Alarms. Systems start at under $35 per month. No job is too small or too large. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Join Shein for a sample sale and art discovery block party on Saturday, September 30th from 12 to 6 to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Support local businesses, shop the Shein sample sale, eat and enjoy murals by local artists on South El Paso Street between Father Ram Avenue and Paisano Drive. This report is sponsored by Shein.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A large group of migrants started to gather along the border barrier in the lower valley this morning. Officials with the Border Patrol say the group of about 500 is on the south side of the border barrier near Fonseca Drive. The group consists primarily of single adult males and family units from Venezuela. The agency says they will be transported to a Border Patrol processing facility and be processed. The murder trial got underway today for a man accused of shooting and killing a 22-year-old man in the parking lot of an East El Paso bar back in 2017. Moises Galvan is accused of killing Rogelio R.J. Franco and injuring David Ortega outside of Barfly, a bar on the east side that has since closed. Galvan says he shot Franco in self-defense. In court today, Franco's father walked out of the courtroom after his son's autopsy was shown to jurors. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, a lot to talk about. A lot of people chiming in, including Willie Jenkins, declaring this a Money Monday. I mean, yeah, the costs are certainly associated with a lot of things, including some of those roadway projects. Okay, the numbers have fluctuated over the years, but most of the I-10 work went pretty quickly. I mean, this was several years ago, or at least 5. That want to say that some of those roadway projects, if there wasn't any of those overpass replacements, was going to be in the like $800 million, and if there was, immediately into the billion. So I have a full expectation that any of those projects now fully into the billion with a B in terms of the costs here. And that has been some of the updated numbers, in fact, as we've talked about in more recent weeks. But in any case, also, of course, at the Texas State Capitol, there was quite the end of quite the end to the what the hell the saga was of the impeachment trial for Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And so here was the headline, of course: acquitted on all charges, or articles of impeachment more specifically. Now, there was a little bit of confusion, there was, because it was acquitted on the 16 articles of impeachment, the way that the House managers, when the House of Representatives for Texas handed down and voted overwhelmingly in favor of the impeachment and moving forward with it to that trial portion, was 20 of them. But when it was received by the Senate for the moving on again to the trial part of it, they decided that they would take on 16 first and essentially put aside and decide second-handedly on the other 20, the remaining 4 to make the full 20. So in this case, what happened is that the Senate, in deciding that they would, again, acquit the embattled Texas Attorney General, now returned to his position, no longer the suspended or out of office, or whatever the right way to put to it there, now returning and fully back in place. It has been decided that those other 4 ones, since he was fully acquitted on the initial ones, those would just be dismissed. So this has been, of course, taking up a lot of headlines, a lot of airtime, a lot of other conversations another way, including, yes, there was some national political figures that were chiming in and taking credit for part of this as well. Be that as it may, there was, of course, only 2 Republicans that effectively broke ranks and ended up voting in favor of the, conviction on the impeachment, as noted by, specifically referring to the reporting by the Texas Tribune here, Kelly Hancock and Robert Nichols, the only ones to vote in favor. So it was a narrow-ish margin, but not exactly. Then they didn't even vote necessarily on all of the articles, but the only ones willing to vote on in favor, again, on the Senate side of things and on the Republican side of things, the only one that were willing to vote at all in favor of any of them. The rest, 201, voting to acquit on all charges, which is, again, what ended up carrying the day. So Texas Tribune does also have how everyone ended up voting on it, but we'll say that we have a couple of statements from some of those locally involved, including, of course, there was House Representative Joe Moody, who was part of the House managers for this, so the ones organizing the House efforts to bring the case to the Senate, but of course not presenting to it. That was done by then lawyers that were brought forth to it. So his statement read in parts, quote, "Sometimes the truth isn't enough. It's a lesson I already knew going into this impeachment process, and it proved true today. But because it was and is the truth, I'm proud of the case we laid out. Mr. Paxton's corruption was so evident that the most senior attorneys and law enforcement agents who served under him, some of whom were his personal friends, felt morally compelled to report his crimes and misdeeds. They stood up for the truth, knowing it would mean the end of their careers they'd given everything for. We presented those facts for more than a week of sworn eyewitness testimony and hundreds of pieces of evidence, including thousands of pages of documents, digital metadata, and geolocation information that together proved persistent, brazen abuse of office. The Senate chose to support a defense rooted in wild conspiracy theories that somehow the Biden administration, the Bush family, and some undefined Marxist left deep state were conspiring to come after Mr. Paxton. It was absurd. And so it goes on a little bit more commentary of the case, but closes again this statement from State Rep Joe Moody. While I'm profoundly disappointed in the decision that was made today, the House began the trial by invoking the words of Sam Houston, do right and risk the consequences. That's what I did. That's what I'll continue to do no matter what. And then on the Senate side of things, of course, we did have a local state senator that was a part of it, Cesar Blanco, representing the Borderland area. His statement, and there hasn't been a lot coming out of him before this, or really any of the other senators or representatives, particularly those that were going to be deciding the trial on the Senate side of things. But even on the other part of it, there was, of course, the gag order put into place, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But what again, State Senator Cesar Blanco for Texas Senator District 29, which is the El Paso area, saying, quote, as a member of the Texas Senate and Court of Impeachment, I took a solemn oath to follow the Constitution and carefully evaluate the evidence presented before me. With a profound sense of responsibility and heavy heart, I honored and upheld the oath that guided my decision to sustain 15 out of 16 articles of impeachment. However, the prevailing sentiment among my Senate colleagues led to his ultimate acquittal. These votes were historic and consequential, and the gravity of this impeachment trial cannot be overstated. While I disagree with the acquittals based on the evidence presented, we must respect the collective judgment of this body and recommit ourselves to the rule of law and the serving of the people of Texas. So, some other commentary coming in here, including expectations on other comments from others. But James Radcliffe mentioning a lot of our tax money was wasted on this sham impeachment, and mentioning specifically a revenge on the part of those in the D or the blue category of the political spectrum. Though, again, it's further noted, I think the way the Texas Tribune put it, that 70% of House Republicans voted for the impeachment back in May. So, and yeah, Ed Clore mentioning that Blanco was in lockstep. I mean, not all articles of impeachment, but that may be more gilding of the lily, so to speak, when it came to, again, the final action and final decision. Again, Texas Tribune has the full breakdown of how everyone ended up voting and, what specific ones they went on. So, again, Ken Paxton back now at the seat of the Texas Attorney General's office. And there's a lot of questions now. Well, basically, his first statement out, as again noted by the Texas Tribune here, said that, his full focus will be returning to primarily the Biden administration, saying, quote, buckle up because your lawless policies will not go unchallenged. We will not allow you to shred the Constitution and infringe on the rights of Texans. You will be held accountable. Though it is further noted that while this particular and very public exercise is now concluded, that there are still felony fraud cases and FBI investigations, at the very least some rumblings of not anything exactly able to point to, at least at this moment, of there being potential grand juries, because here's the major difference, as has, of course, come up, that this was inherently and by design. So, again, not intended as a dig. Anytime I'm bringing up the impeachment process, it's a political tool. Literally, that is what it is. And it was referred to as a trial. There was a judge, and they referred to the members of the Senate as jurors. This has nothing to do with the judicial branch of government, either statewide or federally, because that is not how this was done. I mean, literally, there were questions about would the Fifth Amendment apply. One of the decisions, of course, made by acting as the trial judge, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in this case, saying that, no, we're going to keep the Fifth Amendment where it is, and basically preventing him from being compelled, Ken Paxton, that is, the Attorney General, from being compelled to give testimony against himself. And there were some questions about when there was one of the final witnesses that was coming forth by the House presentation, so the prosecution. Again, just using the phrasing that makes this the simplest, even though, again, it is not actually a court proceeding, but has all the trappings of it. It was questions of if the actual one purported to be, among other things, the mistress of Ken Paxton would be allowed to testify. Ended up not happening to do so, but whether or not that was some kind of deal or determination being made, the House attorneys and the managers agreed along with it that they would not have that person end up testifying. And of course, there have been questions about other influences, including a lot of noise being made about a large sum of money, of roundabouts about $3 million being given to Dan Patrick into his campaigns anyway, right before this trial began, and questions about undue influence therein. But again, this is a political process. And I mean, there's a lot of people making a lot of what this means and how this will then impact the future politics and positions going forward, and at least more than a little bit of expectations, at the very least, of maybe reprisals, at the very least tit for tat, including, again, noted by the Texas Tribune here, their headline, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick asked state to auditor to review Ken Paxton impeachment. Of course, noting that there was a statement that Patrick made right after the conclusion of the trial itself here, saying specifically, quote, the speaker and his team rammed through the first impeachment of a statewide official in Texas in over 100 years while paying no attention to the precedent that the House set in every other impeachment before. And barbs being traded back and forth between the leaders of their respective chambers. Of course, Dan Patrick as lieutenant governor in the Senate, and then House Speaker Dade Phelan, representative there, saying, quote, specifically as noted by the Texas Tribune here, that Patrick entered the trial by, quote, confessing his bias and placing his contempt for the people's house on full display. So, just one final headline I'll read here from the Texas Tribune on this, because frankly, I think it's one of the biggest takeaways to take from this, that whether you think Ken Paxton was right, wrong, or anywhere in between, what this definitely puts on full review is, well, the headline here, Ken Paxton's impeachment trial escalates Texas Republican civil war. And we've talked about this more than a couple of times over even just this most recent legislative session, or sessions, I should say, as they have been going on, because as much as it's technically the same party, Republicans, GOP, there was not a whole lot of lockstep between the chambers, including a thumbing of the nose, arguably, from the House towards the Senate, and the Senate and the leadership, again, basically taking a our way or the highway type of approach, particularly to the initial legislative session, and arguably even more so being ramped up to 11 throughout the special sessions. Like the first special session, I want to say it was one of the first ones, that had the Senate said, well, you're going to do it this way, but the House literally passing what they had basically already done when it came to issues such as the tax reform that was a high priority for the governor, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and saying, nope, we're doing what we did before, and we're adjourning, mic drop. At least that's my interpretation of the last part of it. So this impeachment, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ken Paxton has been having a notable whistleblower and other issues for a few years now, but this could have been read, at least in part, being a major conflict between the chambers. And so in that kind of light and through that kind of a lens, this acquittal, this determination of the way it came down, about the only thing I'm really surprised about is that there were two Senate Republicans that, again, effectively broke ranks and voted for any articles of impeachment or any of the items that were put forth, as opposed to staying with the rest of them and not voting in favor of any. Acquittal would have happened either way, but I will say that there is now expected to be somewhat of a political or primary targeting of at least those couple of ones. Again, the state senators on the Republican side of things that voted in favor of the impeachment. That they're probably going to have a very interesting road ahead of them here in the next election contest. I'll just put it that way. So, I mean, sure, there are some other good points to be made, including Ed Clore saying Paxton is the only one in Austin to have an affair. Yeah, get your point, and well taken that, yes, he was the only person possibly doing any wrong in these high political offices or involving their personal life. Though, I mean, that was part of at least maybe some subtext, since we didn't really get to much of the, again, supposed mistress in this case, but the involvement and the covering of and aid towards allies, it was all a sordid affair being described by the, again, House managers and the attorneys presenting the case as part of the argument there. But there's been a whole lot more reporting. I mean, there was literally, not quite the full 48 hours, 24 hours for either side to fully present, and then I'll respond to the cases of the other side, but still, there was a lot of testimony that other outlets, including the Texas Tribune, were much better situated to discuss in full. But with that note, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. And coming out of this break, we will go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the program. So if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No crashes, just delays on your Borderland traffic. I-10 eastbound Vinton to Red, 5-minute delays. Westbound from Red up to Trans Mountain, it's a 5-minute delay. 54 south from Stan Roberts to McCombs, 12-minute delays there. And 13-minute delays eastbound Montana to Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Fall finds for $25 and under, like sharp blazers, cozy sweaters, cargo pants, jackets, and more. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver, or kidneys, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's, or kidney issues, you may qualify for compensation and could be paid within 60 days after accepting your settlement, with your VA benefits fully protected. You may be entitled to a significant financial award for your Camp Lejeune claim, but you must act now. Call the James Harris Law Camp Lejeune helpline now to get the compensation you deserve. We're already fighting for thousands harmed by the water at Camp Lejeune. Call now or you may forever lose your right to be awarded a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-771-1722. That's 800-771-1722. 800-771-1722.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
You know when you wake up and your mouth feels gross and you just can't wait to brush your teeth to get that clean, fresh feeling again? That's exactly how millions of Navage users feel when they use powered suction to rinse out their noses every day, just like brushing their teeth. Once you're able to breathe deeply without congestion, you never want to be without it. That's why so many people rave about Navage, with over 100,000 online reviews. Feel the Navage difference for yourself. In less than a minute a day, you'll feel immediate relief from seasonal allergies and congestion after the very first use. Navage will also help you sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier, naturally, without drugs. Start breathing clearly again with Navage. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, Target, CVS, Rite Aid, and online at Navage.com. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
No one gets me. I can't take this. Where's home tonight? Hope mom's okay.
Life can take a turn for anyone. So remember, there are always people, places, and activities for you to turn to. Learn more about mental health at turn2supportstx.org.
Life's too short to just live in pain. Visit the Good Feet store today and see how we can help.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in, adding their 2 cents over there, and we'll delve more into those comments, including a few specific questions as well, but really close to the pin on this one, so we're going to take that next break right now. So if you want to get on the line, of course, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call there, and we'll get to more there, and the line is available, just as a note, but more on that and a whole lot more after this break, so don't go anywhere. More News Radio 690 KTSM after this.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No crashes, just delays on your Borderland traffic. I-10 eastbound Vinton to Red, 5-minute delays. Westbound from Red up to Trans Mountain, it's a 5-minute delay. 54 south from Stan Roberts to McCombs, 12-minute delays there. And 13-minute delays eastbound Montana to Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Embarrassed by ugly yellow toe fungus?
Living with toe fungus it's embarrassing. I was afraid to take my socks off. I hid my yellow and crumbly toes from everybody.
Introducing Crystal Flush. Crystal Flush is the only FDA-registered 2-in-1 home treatment that attacks your toe fungus from both the inside and out. Crystal Flush's new and different combination system knocks out toe fungus for good. Guaranteed.
Crystal Flush is different. After just a few weeks, my fungus was gone. I mean, 100% disappeared. Crystal Flush was the only thing that ever worked. So if you're skeptical because you tried a bunch of other stuff, Crystal Flush is different. This is a game changer.
Crystal Flush is now available without a prescription, but it is not available in stores. Get your risk-free supply today. Go to crystalflush.com. That's CRYSTAL flush.com. Stop being embarrassed by ugly yellow toenails. Go to crystalflush.com or call 800-204-4484.
Don't miss our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
The biggest superstars from all genres of music on one stage.
T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas.
Stream it live only on Hulu.
This Friday and Saturday.
10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeartRadio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Brian Shook. It's now the fourth day of the United Auto Workers strike against the big three automakers. Nearly 13,000 auto workers remain on strike at three plants in Ohio, Michigan, and Missouri. They're demanding better pay and pension benefits. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell is criticizing a deal that freed 5 Americans who were detained in Iran.
Tehran continues to accelerate its enrichment of weapons-grade uranium and stonewall international inspectors seeking the truth about Iran's weaponization work.
The U.S. agreed to give Tehran access to $6 billion in assets that were frozen through sanctions. McConnell said the deal is the latest example of President Biden rewarding and incentivizing Iran's bad behavior. The military continues to search for a missing F-35 fighter jet. A Marine Corps pilot put the plane on autopilot before safely ejecting after a mishap in North Charleston, South Carolina yesterday. Officials are looking for the plane in the area north of Joint Base Charleston, near Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. Wall Street is closing slightly higher as investors brace for this week's Federal Reserve decision on interest rates. Natalie Migliori has the details.
Auto stocks, including Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, fell as the United Auto Workers strike continued for a fourth day. Oil stocks and tech shares were among the session's bright spots. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 6 points. The S&P 500 added 3 points, and the NASDAQ rose a point. I'm Natalie Migliori.
Users of Elon Musk's X social media platform may have to pay for it soon. Bloomberg reports Musk told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that X will be moving to a small monthly payment. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Obesity is a growing contributing factor in heart disease deaths. Research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association shows that it was cited on death certificates 3 times as often in 2020 than in 1999. The raw data, which came from the CDC, revealed more than 280,000 heart disease deaths linked to obesity in 2020. The highest mortality rate was in the Black population. Comedian and actor Russell Brand is denying allegations of sexual assault. Michael Kastner reports.
The Times of London conducted a year-long investigation and over the weekend published stories from 5 women who claimed the actor abused or sexually assaulted them. In anticipation of articles being published, Brand released a video beforehand.
Amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
He went on to suggest that he was being targeted by the mainstream media because of his conservative political views. I'm Michael Kastner.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has abolished the Senate's informal dress code effective today. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
Business attire is no longer required on the Senate floor, which means the 100 members can wear whatever they want, but it doesn't apply to their staffers. Schumer changed the dress code for senators very quietly on Friday, simply by letting the Sergeant-at-Arms know. That's good news for Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who prefers a hoodie and baseball shorts to a suit and tie. Senators have at times worn unconventional clothing, including golf or gym attire.
Drew Barrymore is pressing pause on the return of her daytime talk show. Barrymore wrote on Instagram that the Drew Barrymore Show would not come back until the writer's strike ends, saying that she listened to everyone and has no words to express her deepest apologies to anyone hurt. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Coming to Hulu this Friday and Saturday.
Don't miss our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
The biggest superstars from all genres of music on one stage.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
Stream it live only on Hulu.
You will not want to miss.
This Friday and Saturday, starting at 8 p.m.
Capital One is a proud partner of the iHeartRadio Music Festival for the 7th year in a row, bringing great products, rewards, and services to its customers. What's in your wallet?
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and protection. Locally owned and operated, Mazer Security Alarms created Super Switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep your business and family safe. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Why is iHeartRadio the #1 streaming radio app? Free music.
Free live radio stations from all over the country.
Free podcasts.
Free playlists.
Free contests.
Free artist radio stations.
Commercial-free stations. It's free. I love iHeartRadio. Join the millions of music, radio, and podcast fans on the #1 streaming radio app now.
iHeartRadio.
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 Free never sounded so good.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso. With an open channel.
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whichever way works out best for you able to see, hear, participate in the show to your level of satisfaction. That's the right place for you to be as we talk about the things going on and affecting us here in the Borderland. So to that end, we got a lot of stuff that's been happening across the state. And by the way, there's not been too many updates to that situation on the other side of the state line in the land of enchantment. There was that narrowing of the order put forth by Michelle Lujan Grisham, Democrat governor up there when it comes to the suspension of concealed or open carry permits, now being specifically to parks and areas where children congregate. But I guess the major update that has happened there is being reported by a number of the reporting concerns local into Albuquerque and New Mexico in general, that House of Representatives Committee for the state legislature there will vote after a hearing to condemn the temporary firearm restrictions in place by the governor or not. So there will be, again, a condemning, I guess, a strongly worded statement effectively, as opposed to any further on the specifically impeachment threats, though there's an argument to be made that this would then, well, specifically noted by KOT, reading from here, that a passing vote would lead to a hearing on the House floor at a later date. So the argument that of a link to it, certainly, but not a specified or really rubber hits the road moment, at least not just yet. Anyway, a lot of other things going on. And of course, we do have those phone lines open. If you want to add your 2 cents that way, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we do have callers on the line right now. Let's jump right into that here. Well, a couple of comments I want to get to before that point with Buddy Bias talking about some of the issues going on, saying specifically there are immigrants at the border attempting to drink water from the river. Why isn't anyone there giving them water? This is inhumane. Depending on the positioning of it, maybe where there can't be like private assistance. A lot of the like water stations I'm aware of end up being on the U.S. side of things, out in like say the Santa Teresa or more desert areas as opposed to there. And John Adams specifically asking me, how can I not refer to this as an invasion? Multiple definitions of the dictionary and many words, including invasion. So besides the definitional idea of it, I mean, what do we consider when we think about invasion? Having just recently done some rewatching of some of my preferred World War II censored videos and movies, there's a lot of focus on, the armed conflict of the taking control of an area. And I know a lot of conversations happens around the operational control part of it, but what do you do in response to an invasion? You seek to repel it. You seek to defeat it. You seek to make sure it can't happen anymore, usually through force of arms. And I know that it often, for people who are of this persuasion, feels like we're going to do something. Yeah, but what would that effectively look like? I know there are some out there that I'm hoping are being facetious, but I'm not so certain anymore, calling for, say, guard towers, armed measures in order to repel things. And I got to say that as much as someone thinking like, that'll definitely put a stop to it, that also comes with so many more. I mean, it says more about us than just about anything else. So also the idea of saying they're going to take extreme measures in response to something that may or may not, and I argue, does not warrant it. What does it say about us, and what does it further then engender? I mean, a lot of people around the time of, particularly in 2020, referring to things like, the China virus or, the Kung flu, those type of phrases. I don't think people necessarily intended it to be, but definitely comes along as then there was all incidences of people saying, hey, wait, you caused this, when looking at people of Asian descent. One of the reasons that AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander recognition and issues are still coming along. So I generally, refer to people as people for a reason, because anything less than, we've seen the way that rhetoric leads overall. Because if you're referring to people as anything besides other human beings, dehumanization is never a positive thing. And I want to be nowhere near the company of anyone who has taken that along in the first place, because not exactly a great track record there either. But let's get to those phone lines now. We do, of course, have a bunch of people on the line. Do have Marco in Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, I couldn't agree with that point more. We should stop dehumanizing people, and it's hard to find the empathy that people should have. There's a great book, if people get a chance to read it. It's by Philip K. Dick, and it's Do Androids Dream of an Electric Sheep?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, people have made the cell phone the sheep. It's a great book, but that's not why I called.
Okay.
I kind of figured what was going to happen in the House with Ken Paxton. I agree with Dan Patrick.
Okay.
This is a waste of time. I'm not going to say that he's perfect, but if men were angels, we wouldn't need governments. And so he does the best that he can. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think we need to stop looking again. We need to stop looking for Superman, because you're never going to find him. You're not going to find Jesus Christ, because he hasn't returned. And so what you will find is people with a lot of iniquities, a lot of problems, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can in this world. And we're all getting smeared, slandered, defamed at every point. Again, I'm not saying that Attorney General Paxton is perfect. What I am saying is maybe we need to find another way to have a discourse with those that we disagree with. Another point that I want to talk to is about establishment. And the establishment bleeds everywhere. It's in, obviously, the Texas State House with Dan Phelan and Ken Paxton, and you also have the governor and Dan Patrick. And, man, those are four factions that are extremely powerful. But it also bleeds down to the everyday life. We don't call it the establishment. In some ways we do. But, we all respond to a boss. We all respond to certain people. and we have
Sure.
to acquiesce, point sometimes, or change the way we live because of certain things. This is why I chose to become an entrepreneur. I will say this, for me, in this journey to becoming El Paso's mayor, as a Native American, I don't think El Paso's ever had a Native American mayor, but I think of the journey and how excited I am. And unfortunately, I don't want to trash, but I do want to say this. The establishment everywhere is tight-knit, and it's hard to break in because they have a prototype of how people see you. And so since I have long hair, earrings, and, I cherish my heritage, I don't fall into that prototype. So when people see me there, they assume I'm some raging liberal or something. And I am. I'm a traditional liberal. I'm a libertarian. And so, the saddest thing is the people that have helped me out on my journey to becoming mayor of El Paso have been, and you know what? I'm not going to take it deeper. I say with absolute thanks to the Democrats that have helped me along the way. And there have been many Democrats that have extended the handout. They've heard my message. They like what I have to say. And I'm not trying to pit anybody together against each other. That's not why I'm running. My contention and the thing that makes me sad, and it's the ego. And it hurts. It's not that it hurts the prideful part of the ego, but it hurts the heart part of the ego for me, because I've been a conservative for such a long time. I stood up for the establishment for such a long time. And then you just realize that you're a pawn. And unless you fit this prototype, it's hard to break in. So to everybody out there that struggles every day just to break out of the norm, trust me, when I say I'm not the establishment, I am outside of the establishment. I am. I'm a conservative thinker, but I'm also a fair thinker, and I want the best for humanity because that's where we have to start. So there's so many problems going on, and unfortunately we have to consume ourselves with these political battles, which in the end, if you look at the scope of like issues like Ukraine, does it really matter? And then we don't get to talk about cool things like Project Metropolis. I want to make one final point about this Project Metropolis, because we're talking about the city, and I heard some developments that are going to be coming to El Paso. And I was thinking, what can we do for El Paso? And I thought Project Metropolis needs to be a way for us to get corporations to come and build their headquarters here in Texas, in El Paso, and particularly in the new downtown area. I would love to see a Wrangler building in the new downtown area, a Toyota building, even try maybe to get back some of the companies that we've lost. Like Suzuki is a beautiful company, makes great cars and motorcycles. We're stuck with the motorcycles and we can't get the cars. So we need to find a way to get these companies back. It creates jobs. I think doing the investments for the new downtown area would be a fantastic boom for the region. And those are the things that I want to talk about. I really want to try to veer away from the political battles, but they exist.
Fair enough.
And I'm just telling everybody, if you have a dream, sometimes you just come out of the blue, but you got to do it. And if you don't do it, you're going to regret it, because to live is to risk it all.
True enough there. Well, do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, guys. Marco for mayor. Love you all.
I will say this, couple of notes here, that actually in the midst of all of this going on, specifically with the political issues, that again, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, was here in El Paso for the ribbon cutting on the expanded Schneider Electric manufacturing plant. El Paso Inc. has some of the pictures and comments from that, including what Abbott himself said, again, here in El Paso, which has been, I mean, sure, there's an argument about being an election or upcoming elections and campaign never really ending this time around. But what the governor specifically said is, quote, with hundreds of new jobs in this $20 million facility, it's an investment in the future of El Paso, and that is an important part of the thriving Texas economy. To make sure we have a low cost of doing business, we cut through all the red tape that slows down the business, and including, I think right before we got on air, a release out from the governor's office. They've been one of the things that he's touted, of course, including in his election timeframes, has been about business and business suitability, including one about this was about a music-friendly certified community, but often it's a lot of focus on here. So it was interesting because it hasn't really been the case that just for like ribbon cuttings, the governor has slept all the way out here to the parts of West Texas in either this or previous administrations, which was an interesting juxtaposition to the fact that particularly when the major parts of the Santa Teresa port of entry were being opened, the then governor, Susana Martinez, I know that dates it, but made at least a half dozen trips out this far. Now, different scope, size, importance to the overall state economy, arguments to be made. Not trying to say that those don't matter at all, but still, it was a very interesting juxtaposition. But let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more comments in the line. We'll get to some of those as well as more calls. And again, if you want to get on the line is available now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound near the Copia exit, a disabled vehicles block in the right lane. I-10 eastbound after Copia to Trowbridge, you're looking at a 5-minute delay through downtown. 54 south, McCombs to Kenworthy is a 5-minute delay. And there's a 10-minute backup eastbound Montana on and off, slowing from McRae to Zaragoza. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 5-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with things I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of the disease called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, straight lines seem wavy, like when looking at a door frame. For others, blurry or missing spots can make it hard to read or see loved ones' faces. Many have trouble seeing in low light, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. Talk to your eye doctor about GA today. Learn more at GAWon'tWait.com. That's GAWon'tWait.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Brad Schaefer. As a podiatrist, I can tell you no two people's feet are alike, which is why I recommend Dr. Scholl's custom fit orthotic inserts. They're customized for your feet, so you get a unique solution your feet really need, not just a one-size-fits-all insole. They're clinically proven to provide pain relief for achy feet, knees, lower back, plantar fasciitis, and heels. Take the Dr. Scholl's custom fit orthotics assessment in Walmart today, now in the foot care aisle.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, and the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversation and commentary, including Leonidas Bermuda apparently responding as if hearing that one of those not quite that way, but it sounds like the summoning call. Downtown. Did someone say downtown? I could have sworn I heard downtown. There was the idea of the new downtown of the Project Metropolis. I think Marco was talking about the saying more, I guess, higher development, higher density development on like either side of Trans Mountain. That's my paraphrasing of it. I'll leave that to try to put words in his mouth. But Patriot Chick, particularly on the idea of economic development, was saying that I don't believe those companies are ever coming back, referring to some of the manufacturing or other ones. I think what was being referred to there is not just as in coming back to our area, but of how like Suzuki Motors doesn't really do anything besides motorcycle or two-wheel or sport vehicles in the U.S. anymore at all, but others, including Trito Sacco, again over on the YouTube, with concerns about the loose dog population and the issues with that. I get that's definitely a major one that you have a concern with, though. I will say it's mostly a concern out in the outskirts of the county where there is just not enough of the, it's not code enforcement, but animal services, animal control, etc., and other conversations about some of those cross-border issues as well, as we'll keep our eye on. Oh, did have a question come in online wanting me to repeat that website that I often refer to where there is some of the tracking of these numbers. That's elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis. El Paso, Texas, spelled out texas.gov/migrants-crisis. And that's for the migrant situational awareness dashboard that is available with the numbers. Well, particularly they updated on the numbers involving from the city, though. We're still a couple of days off the most recent one from the transportation numbers from the 15th. And I think similar when it comes to the housing numbers, those in hotels, from the 14th there, but still a good way to track some of the trends and ones that I often end up referring to. So again, elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis. And that's one that I refer to for the migrant situational awareness dashboard. But we have more calls on the line there as well. So other conversations going on. But let's step back into those phone lines. Again, if you want to get on the line, there's a line available, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, on immigration. Well, as we know, the border between the United States and Mexico is a lot longer than the border between Mexico and Guatemala, and Mexico and Belize, which are at the southern borders of Mexico. Now, for example, Guatemala has a per capita gross domestic product of $5,473, compared to the United States of $76,000. Mexico's per capita GDP is double that of Guatemala at $13,000 versus $5,000, more than actually double, but still a whole lot less than the United States at $76,000 per capita GDP. United States Border Patrol average salary for a patrolman, $69,500. Okay, so hey, Republicans, you have the House. You're responsible for passing the laws and appropriating the money to solve the nation's problems. What are you doing, huh? Where's your comprehensive immigration reform legislation? We've been waiting for it forever. Now here's my idea. Republicans in the House, why don't you guys think about this? Why not just hire Mexican and Guatemalan army to close their borders down there to illegal immigration over there at the border between Guatemala and Mexico and Belize and Mexico, and also pay for the United States hiring people to process asylum and immigration requests down there, way down there, 2,000 miles away. Because, I mean, when they're already in Mexico, and it's too late. Once they're in the country, okay, it's too late then. So we got to stop them down there. Is the way to do it, and we got to pay for it. I mean, it'd be very cheap compared to hiring a border patroller, and certainly compared to building a wall all across between Mexico and the United States, which was a moronic idea that only morons would have thought were going to happen from a liar. Now, in choosing our leaders, talking about leaders, I think those who want to lead people, like Marco, by the way, and who want us to put them in charge of the government, and he wants to be an anarchist. Did he say something about anarchy? That's kind of crazy.
I don't believe so, but okay.
It's as important as their policy positions and solutions for the problems are. It's utmost importance, but so is character of the individual, their public reputation, their veracity. Are they reputed to be a liar or a person of their word? Do they have a history of bankruptcies, lawsuits, and settlements? Do they lack a rap sheet? And what about the adherence to certain cultural norms and behaviors of cultural norms of behavior and speech? How about that, huh? Now, Republicans used to be concerned about such things as character, things like morals, ethics, truthfulness, and family values. By the way, have you seen the videotape of Representative Lauren Boebert and her date groping each other in the theater where there were kids and their parents were there? Wow, what a hoe. She got...
Okay, I'm going to, there are certain phrases and things that may not, well, there's not actually an explicit list of things that can't be said on the radio, but let's just say referring to someone in particular colloquial terms of relating to sex work is not something that usually ends up being acceptable on the airwaves as a clue there for it. Though I will say this, when it comes to the immigration plan you're putting forth there, sounds substantially similar to Kinky Friedman back when he did his, used to have one of his campaign signs around because it was just made me laugh every time I looked at it. But his, the quote, 5 Mexican generals plan, quoting from the Wikipedia here because it's the best encapsulation. Otherwise it would have just been from our media, from my memory, that he, the quote that he said is, when I talk about 5 Mexican generals, people think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious about the idea of find out the ones that are in charge of the border sectors, basically create an account for them, and every time someone passes through their control without them being stopped, that they would be a debit from there and see how quickly it takes to stop here. He later apparently said in the progression of that campaign that I never meant to be carried out, but it was a joke with the element of seriousness, apparently, according to an interview he gave to the Dallas Morning News here. But it just sounds, that's just what it brought immediately to mind for me. But I will say that that idea and the idea of Mexico doing more control at its southern border. I mean, we had seen things like that. We've talked previously about how, Mexico may not have actually physically built a wall, but some of the changes in their policy, particularly regarding to the Mexican Guardia Nacional, the Mexican National Guard, being essentially revamped as a border security force. Now, that has, of course, waxed and waned in the relationship between administrations, both between the Trump and Biden administration and between those administrations and the one in Mexico. We got a lot of rumblings going on there. We don't focus that too much on it, besides mentioning AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, and his particular policies. The fact that we got another election rumbling down there, we could see it completely, sea change of policies yet again. But we'll say this, that the idea of trying to do anything besides national agreements there, we've seen the way it has worked out when, say, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has done it on its own, particularly the cross-border impacts. Sure, Operation Lone Star does continue apace, and if anything is expanding, but some of the ones that were meant to put more direct pressure on the other side of things, when you look at the what was he doing with Texas state troopers, the secondary inspections of all cargo crossing into the state, that then saw the very long lineups and the issues we even saw around this area. Not quite sure how well that has really worked out in the long run there. So, and if you want to talk about other politicians without any particular regard to this local area, sure, I've seen the video you're talking about, but, that's Friday territory for sure here. But let's just make this perfectly clear. There are certain phrases, if you want to talk about politics and the things going on with it, try to avoid too many epithets, because otherwise, I'm not willing to get a major fine or get us kicked off air for doing that kind of thing, and that's the way we'll handle it. But taking that next break right now, and we do have those lines open and available, because when we have to dump a call, we do have to clear the line. That's our policies, just to make that perfectly clear in case that was not at all. But anyway, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. A large group of migrants started to gather along the border barrier in the lower valley this morning. Officials with the Border Patrol say the group of about 500 is on the south side of the border barrier near Fonseca Drive. The group consists primarily of single adult males and family units from Venezuela. The agency says they will be transported to a Border Patrol processing facility and be processed. The murder trial got underway today for a man accused of shooting and killing a 22-year-old man in the parking lot of an East El Paso bar back in 2017. Moises Galvan is accused of killing Rogelio R.J. Franco and injuring David Ortega outside of Barfly, a bar on the east side that has since closed. Galvan says he shot Franco in self-defense. In court today, Franco's father walked out of the courtroom after his son's autopsy was shown to jurors. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
In the Lower Valley eastbound border highway at the Zaragoza exit, an accident's blocking the left lane. Stay to the right. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriots, a 5-minute delay. Eastbound Montana, McRae out to Zaragoza, now a 15-minute delay. And southbound on the 54, McCombs down to Kenworthy. It's on and off slowing with 5-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is forecaster Nasai Mancini. Well, folks, we're in for a pretty nice day here in the Borderland. Highs we saw in the low 90s today. Lows tonight are going to be in those 60s. As we make our way throughout the rest of the week, going to see a little bit of those breezy conditions come Tuesday, and then a 10% chance for some moisture to be drawn in Thursday, Friday, but staying in those 90s. Head on over to kfoxtv.com for the latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Klein tools are new at Lowe's. Right now, get the new Klein 3-piece ModBox mobile workstation exclusively at Lowe's for just $319.94. Because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
Is foot pain keeping you from living life to its fullest? Would you like to come home from work ready to go instead of ready to rest your feet? Life's too short to be dealing with foot, knee, or back pain. Come into the Good Feet store and learn how the Good Feet Arch Support System can help you get pain-free.
Embarrassed by ugly yellow toe fungus?
Living with toe fungus it's embarrassing. I was afraid to take my socks off. I hid my yellow and crumbly toes from everybody.
Introducing Crystal Flush. Crystal Flush is the only FDA-registered 2-in-1 home treatment that attacks your toe fungus from both the inside and out. Crystal Flush's new and different combination system knocks out toe fungus for good. Guaranteed.
Crystal Flush is different. After just a few weeks, my fungus was gone. 100% disappeared. Crystal Flush was the only thing that ever worked. So if you're skeptical because you tried a bunch of other stuff, Crystal Flush is different. This is a game changer.
Crystal Flush is now available without a prescription, but it is not available in stores. Get your risk-free supply today. Go to crystalflush.com. That's CRYSTAL flush.com. Stop being embarrassed by ugly yellow toenails. Go to crystalflush.com or call 800-204-4484.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of people chiming in, adding their 2 cents, particularly dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate, including James Ratcliffe, Ion Grimm, Ida Beza Gardner, Calvin Williams, James Holmes, RJ, Monica Cervantes, and Robbie Flores, and a lot of other conversations coming on here and issues. But let's just make one thing clear, particularly when it comes to the phone calls. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I have and fully review every single comment that comes by. Only got so many eyeballs and brain cells to rub together. But particularly when it comes to the phone calls, we absolutely have FCC guidelines to go through. And it's ironic enough that I know it when I see it as literally part of the case law and the FCC guidelines that they put forth here. But obscene content, particularly when it comes to a three-pronged test of appealing to an average person's prurient interest, picture describing sexual content in a patently offensive way, and taken as a whole a lack of serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Let's just say, there's a, well, if you want to describe certain people and their attributes, there are absolutely ways to go about it, but, there are other comments on there, such as referring to gardening tools in other ways. But let's just say we're not even going to play that game, because if it's going to be a contest to see how close to the edge that we can get on doing obscene or offensive things until we can get it, we're coming at this from the completely wrong angle anyway. If you want to talk about the things going on and of interest, I mean, even outside of Fridays, there's plenty of stuff going on, and that even the national does come down and affect our local level. We do talk about that, and they actually okay, what's going on, what can people do about it, or what's affecting them right now kind of way. But otherwise, we're just playing this whole phone call chicken kind of thing. We've maybe had a little bit too much patience with that in the past here, and both the response we've been getting and my personal patience is wearing more than a little bit thin on that. But that's part of the reason I also hate about this. We're taking up time. We could be talking about the issues with this housekeeping and house cleanup. So let's dive straight back into the phone line right now. That number again to call, squeezing in what we can before the end of the show, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call. Another important thing, like David Frigson asking, when will El Paso get a metro rail that actually connects the west and east side? Oh, I would have loved to have seen the trolley being that. I'll say that some of the roadway projects, like the Montana major expansion that's going on, is closer to it, though. I think if El Paso is ever really going to get that, I don't think surface level, of course, underground rail will work at all, given our geology and geography. I think it'll have to be an elevated line. Think a la Chicago. And the amount of investment that takes these days is significant. So if I win one of those billion-dollar lotteries, we'll talk. But otherwise, when it comes to public policy, I wouldn't hold my breath, at least in the short term. In the meantime, ride the trolley. I mean, you don't actually have to. I'm just saying, if you wanted something you could do that might affect it, that's the best I got for you at the moment, unless you're going to become a high-powered litigator or legislator or lobbyist. Anyway, getting those phone lines, we do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
There was this great band in the 60s by the name of the Buffalo Springfield, and one of their classic songs, part of their song was, "There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware." I mean, it was a classic Vietnam counter thingy culture thing. Now, having said that, if you recall, you and everybody else out there in the Southwest border region, I mentioned this to you, and I have not heard a response yet about where is the problem? Is it the politicians? Or is it the people electing the politicians? Now, just set that aside for a minute. Now, what just happened? 3 things in a row just today. You guys in Texas, the House voted to impeach that Paxton guy, right? And the Senate caved. They gave him a free run, just almost like the Donnie Dotard back with his 2 impeachments. Then the second point was, there was a lot of Republicans that saying, hey, let's not impeach Biden. And all of a sudden they caved. That's number 2. Then the third thing is, here's this very famous Federalist member, chairman, whatever the heck it is, going about the 14th Amendment, paragraph 3, whatever it is, and all of a sudden he reversed his situation. So again, I ask you, right out of the box, and everybody else out there in the Southwest border region, is it the politicians or is it the people that are elected? Because I'm sick and tired of people complaining Congress doesn't work. So there's my opening comment.
I mean, I'll maintain my position that, I mean, there's a lot of issues with elected officials, but I mean, you look at then even the stats coming along with it is that people hate Congress. Literally, Congress has at previous points in time, I don't have the current stats on it, and this was just the polling, it was less popular than the concept of a communist takeover of the United States. And like just simple polling questions, that was at like 15-20%, the takeover idea, and Congress was below that. So it's had serious issues, but then the further factors bear out that most people in general are then favorable on their Congress person. So it's the problem is everyone else and not my local issue and local person, which is maybe more of a structural issue that goes into the whole argument of all politics are local and everyone always bringing down and making sure their constituents are happy. There's a whole lot to go with this, but I got to say that, well, again, there are certainly some elected officials of which have had a lot of issues, and gerrymandering and the way districts are set certainly has an interplay with this, but that people, I hate to use the phrase because it has so many other implications, but waking up and being a part of the process in this case and actually making their voice be heard when it comes to voting, at the very least in our local area, we have a lot of people that are just not paying attention to what they are being able to vote on in the ballot box. We got a whole lot that's actually coming. I think we're at 14 constitutional amendments on the Texas side of things anyway. They're going to be on the ballot this coming November, and I'm not enthusiastic about the voter turnout possibilities. There are some efforts along those lines, including of get out the vote efforts that I'm aware of. From our news partners at KFOX 14, El Paso County gears up for a National Voter Registration Day, which I am fully in favor of. That's actually tomorrow, and they'll specifically be out with local universities and the elections department out in various other places in the community. But still, we have a general issue with people having the willingness to even wander their way into a ballot box.
Well, I hear there's a couple of points that you pigged on. That I'm going to bring. The point being that people vote for their people, like you're saying. The Congress is the most hated organization. They're less than a used car salesman. But whose fault is that? Is it the politician or the person electing that politician? Again, the way our country works, it's representative democracy. So you get to vote for the person you want. So if you got a bunch of nut jobs, and that goes further back into my earlier comment, that you cannot operate a democracy if you've got a bunch of morons that are voting. It's as simple as that. It can't happen, Andrew. When you got people in the 14th district of Georgia that vote for this nut job, muggery, thuggery, Taylor Greene, and expect Congress to work? Come on, give me a break already. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's true that the people voting need to be informed, and that would be my general thing, but bringing it back here locally, is that we don't have enough people voting at all. And so we have politics of outrage take most of the room and most of the air in the room at any given point in time. And that's why there's also it's kind of a two-factor thing. There's probably more than this, but two come to mind at the moment of you got to keep issues relevant and fresh in order to bring people to the ballot box, or I would actually say more than that, donating to you. Because if you don't have that pipeline, you could have the most support, the most people willing to support you. But if you don't have the mechanisms of the political office together, you're not going to be able to do much. Because sure, you may have the best positions, the best ideas, like objectively, and that would never come to that consensus. But if you don't have the ability to staff a campaign office, have those canvassers, have the people making the phone calls, apps, whatever, it's just not going to happen for you. Grassroots is a good place to start, but most of the major campaigns that end up working out end up getting major donor support behind it, and that's ultimately and unfortunately what makes a lot of difference. So I will say that people, the general public, I mean, it's a representative of who shows up. Those who show up end up making the decisions. And if we don't have people showing up or even understanding why they should show up to these elections, that's where I think, A, we are here locally, and B, a huge existential problem in its own right.
It's almost subtly the way you're suggesting is Marco Antonio Contreras. He's got no infrastructure. He's got nothing. But he's got some great ideas. Maybe you could argue this way, that way. But you're right. I mean, he needs some heavy-duty support to move forward to his thought process, whether or not 90% of El Pasoans come out and vote. But if that were to be the case in your, I'm not embarrassing, your Pollyannish thought process of people showing up on the polls, Who knows? The guy could win, but he doesn't have the infrastructure. He's out there, gets on your program and says, here I am, I want to do this, I want to do that, but he doesn't have the heft as you just explained. So how does that work? Again, I go back to the point, and I'm going to hammer this to death, and I'm going to do this every time I call. The point is you cannot operate a democracy with a bunch of morons that are voting. That's my ending comment on that.
Fair enough, and I get you there specifically, but I will say that it's not even that we have only the uneducated and uninformed and unintelligent voting, so we don't have anyone voting here locally. And I think changing that, at the very least, we get people to stand up and pay attention and maybe do, I don't know, outside of National Voter Registration Day, some of these, and I'm not by any means impugning the local voter office, the El Paso County Elections Department, or any of the organizations involved in it here, but it should be way more than one day a year. I'll put it that way.
Well, I hear what you're saying on it. I don't know how it gets fixed. Ever since first Congress way back in the 1700s to where we are today, where people are running this country and you're not paying attention, and then you cry and you whine and you wail about how things are. Whose fault is that, you morons? Because you didn't get out there and vote, you jerks. That's my ending comment.
Fair enough. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay, Andrew, take care.
All right, I think we have time for at least one more call on the line right now. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Andrew, I had a chance to speak to several individuals that have come from Venezuela. I do not know, Andrew, if they are asking for asylum, but they are wearing a ankle monitor.
Yes, that is a part of most of the release procedures that are happening at this point. Particularly, it's one of those changes towards Title VIII and the increased enforcement that the Biden administration has been wanting to see when it comes to the asylum process overall. You could read it as the vein of what has been floated as that remain in Texas policy, but again, that remains not policy. It's just been an idea that has been maybe having been leaked to been floated through popular media, but we'll remain to see what actually happens in terms of any actual releases on that part.
Well, get this, Andrew. In speaking to them, I get the impression the reason that they're here is because of economic hardship.
That would tend to fit with both what we've seen coming out of the country of Venezuela and many of the other narratives that have been established along with that. Because, I mean, as one of the, if not the most oil-rich nation, at the very least per capita, in the Western Hemisphere, the fact that there is it's truly a strangled the golden goose kind of moment is what it seems like externally, but also I've known people from Venezuela that were, let's just put it, very unhappy in previous eras to this, not anyone currently that I'm aware of, very unhappy with the way their country had been being run, but unfortunately were not in a position themselves or at their organizations they were a part of able to do much about it at those levels, that they were not enjoying the ride, let's put it that way.
True. One last thing about securing the border. Well, back in the 80s when Camarena was killed in Guadalajara, back then President Reagan put enough pressure, both economically and politically, to where he practically shut down the border, forcing Mexico to cooperate with the United States in the investigation. But anyway, if this president would wanted to, but he's too influenced by immigration groups. He could put enough economic pressure and political pressure on Mexico to close down that southern border in Mexico.
Again, we've seen previous examples of it here. There's always been the question of, even before we were in the current administration, there was a question of the so-called ant migration that was then happening. So the volatility of policies when it comes to Mexican national government is always a question to be asked and to follow up with. But whether or not it happens through this administration, again, AMLO is at best a loose cannon. At worst, he has been prone to his own wild theories. Let's just put it that way. And when it looks at the potential for another administration coming in there, it could be a whole new ball game. So it's definitely been a protean situation throughout and continues to be. And whether or not even any level of pressure can be maintained is, frankly, another question entirely that I'm not sure even across administrations has been. If there's been nothing ironclad, like we've done this, they will do that, and we're good to go for a while. Like it's never exactly been the case, even when more hardline tactics have been used, at least in my reading.
Well, I lived through the administration of Reagan, and I've seen many presidents. But there has never will be a president like Ronald Reagan. And sorry, but Joe Biden, he is no Ronald Reagan, that's for sure.
I don't think you'd get a lot of disagreement on that particular point here, but I'm sure someone would find a way to. But I do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Take care. Thank you for letting me call.
Yeah, absolutely happy to have you on and talk about these things, but we got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll tell you what we got coming up for you on the programs. A little bit more to go. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Border Highway eastbound at Zaragoza, a collision is blocking the left lane, causing some stop-and-go delays back to approaching Midway. I-10 westbound McRae, a truck is blocking the right shoulder. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriots, a 5-minute delay. And there's some on and off heavy slowing southbound on Mesa from Desert Boulevard to the downtown exits, 5-minute delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Want to save big on custom faux wood blinds, shutters, cellular shades, and more? Shop Blindster today and save up to 50% over comparable blinds from brick and mortar stores. Get custom blinds at low prices and free shipping at Blindster.com.
Hammer and Nails, El Paso's newest men's grooming destination with your comfort and privacy in mind, and where your favorite brew, spirit, or mixed drink will be waiting for you along with every cut, shave, manicure, or pedicure visit. Open daily at the fountains at Farrah, Hammer and Nails offers world-class luxury experiences without the pretentious price tag. Visit Hammer and Nails Grooming Shop for Guys online at hammerandnailsgrooming.com to book your next experience. That's hammerandnailsgrooming.com. The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately, helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For more than 45 years, the El Paso Community Foundation has worked with individuals and nonprofits to address the unique opportunities and challenges in our vibrant multicultural community. Every dollar goes to bettering our region. For more information about the foundation, establishing a fund of your own, or giving to an existing fund or project, go to epcf.org. That's epcf.org. For good, for El Paso, forever.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Covered a lot of ground here today, and we'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Probably more about, well, the Texas legislature, because as much as this was a whole fun exercise with the impeachment proceedings and now the acquittal, there's another legislative session or two, maybe more, to go. They're not done yet, even for this year, unless the governor is just going to totally throw up his hands. But there's a lot of educational funding things. There's a lot of his major priorities still yet to go. So that's next up on deck. We'll also be getting some more response from our local state delegation, among other things. So there's a lot more to go there, but also a whole lot more to be investigated and looked at. We didn't even get to the response from New Mexico's governor to some of those recent actions and future plans. So there's a lot more to come, y'all. We'll have to do that again next time, as we are out of time before this program. I want to thank everyone that did it. Tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We want to talk about the things going on or affecting us here in the borderland, like David Freakson. Don't think I didn't miss your response there to the idea of light rail. That's a whole nother kettle of fish, but one we could get into maybe with some for future interviews as well. But let's leave it there for today. So until then, until next time, want you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.